This land on Truax Lane off Highway 312 and I-94 in Eau Claire's northwest corner used to be home to a holiday station and a Subway. If everything goes according to plan, it will become a new Culver's. EMS workers respond whenever and wherever they're needed, but a shortage of first responders is putting a strain on many rural communities, including here in Chippewa County. Construction begins Monday on Madison Street and parts of Farwell Street in the north downtown area. On Friday, business owners say they were left scrambling to make a plan. When the town of Washington first started petitioning to become a village last summer, over 600 residents signed on. Now they need to collect signatures again. It was 1 year ago when HSHS announced the hospitals in Eau Claire and Chippewa Falls would be closing their doors. Since then, the region has been working hard to recover from the loss. Altoona police responded to slightly fewer calls last year than in 2023, but one area they are seeing an increase is traffic violations. It's been 1 month now since President Trump signed an executive order to eliminate equity, diversity, and inclusion programs from the federal government. Here in Eau Claire, the city is still working to figure out what that means for local government. Katie, people told me they were upset and angry. They thought they would have the chance to speak to Congressman Derek Van Orden's staff to share their concerns about the Trump administration. When Van Orden's office canceled, as you can see, they showed up anyways.
We're very angry, very, very angry.
Martha Woodworth from Eau Claire showed up to the meeting Thursday morning hoping to share her concerns with a staff member from Congressman Derek Van Orden's office, but he wasn't there. What would you say to him? What would you want to tell him?
Well, I would say that you work for us, not Trump. I would say that, we are in very dire times.
The meeting was scheduled by the group Chippewa Valley Indivisible as a chance for people to share their feedback with a member of Congressman Van Orden's staff. Only 24 people would be let in, but Chippewa Valley Indivisible organizer Sydney Greening said over 100 responded.
We let them know that, hey, we're hearing other people, but we agreed to 24 in the room. We'll hold to 24. We won't let anyone else. Or we'll wait later if you're willing to meet with more of the community, and they declined.
But people showed up anyway. Many voiced concerns over Trump's recent executive actions, cuts to federal government programs, Elon Musk's role in the administration, and more, some even wearing their message. Others wrote their concerns and walked from the library to Van Orden's Eau Claire office. Eau Claire resident Joe Abholt spoke with office staffers.
He's not hearing what the concerns of his constituents are, or I think he would be more public, standing up on behalf of the Constitution, on behalf of the separation of powers, and on behalf of all of the people who are on Medicare who need to have support from the government.
Thank you very much. If you have any other comments or questions, please feel free to call.
But most were turned away.
Well, if you are
take your cards.
We did only have 24 at any time.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Quiet and calm.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. When do we need?
We reached out to Congressman Van Orden's office and asked why staff canceled appearing at the meeting. They accused Chippewa Valley Indivisible of sharing the meeting details publicly without authorization to, quote, ambush the congressman's staff, that it is unreasonable to expect a single staffer to accommodate a group that large. We have their full statement on our website. When I spoke with the Chippewa Valley Indivisible organizer, she said they wanted to provide a forum for people to voice their concerns and offered to reschedule the meeting when a larger room was available, but Van Orden's office declined. John Keith Miller was sentenced today to life in prison. He pled no contest to murdering Mary Schlase in 1974.
I don't know that anything could ever make up for the loss of life and the over 50 years that her family had to wonder what happened.
Harsh words for John Keith Miller Thursday as he was sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison for the 1974 murder of Mary Schlase.
Mary Schlase was more than a victim. She was a brilliant, independent woman, a gifted artist, an equestrian, a world traveler, and a scholar.
Schlase was hitchhiking from Minneapolis to an art show in Chicago was picked up by Miller. Miller told detectives he asked her for sexual contact. She refused, and he stabbed her. He left her body in a snowbank off the road in the town of Springbrook, leaving his stocking hat at the scene. Detectives at the time collected DNA from that hat, but it didn't return any matches. The trail went cold until 2022. Researchers from Ramapo College used the DNA to trace a family tree. Last fall, that led detectives to Miller, who finally confessed.
I don't know what to say. I did. I put him in the snowbank.
Miller pled no contest Thursday and was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. For the Schlase family, it's one step towards closure.
We, sadly, whenever we've thought about Mary over the years, we always think of what happened to her. And I feel like now we can think about who she was as a person, and not just that final day. And I think that will be what we continue to do.
Katie, after the sentencing today, Mary's family said they're grateful to all of the detectives and researchers who have worked on this investigation over the decades for not allowing her case to be lost to time.
It's not in the best interest of the person experiencing hardship. Oftentimes, our community members end up being victims of crimes. We've had police officers injured when these homeless people being dropped off become resistive and combative.
A 6-page letter from Eau Claire City and County attorneys sent to Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul outlines cases of the St. Croix County Sheriff's Office and the Menominee and Durand Police Departments transporting homeless people to Eau Claire without their consent. It says they were dropped off at gas stations, motels, and shelters, places not able to care for people, some of who were on drugs or in a mental health crisis. Rokas says once dropped off, people often become a strain on Eau Claire's human services and on Eau Claire taxpayers.
We want to make sure that someone is not stranded in a place that's unfamiliar to them without the appropriate services.
Eau Claire City Attorney Stephen Nix says these incidents raise several legal questions. By transporting people who have not committed crimes without their consent, he says officers could be violating their civil rights.
They need to have probable cause for a violation of the law. There's no doubt that none of these individuals committed any crime for which there was cause for an arrest.
He also says the officers may be operating outside their jurisdiction by having custody of a person outside of the city or county they serve. Nick says by weighing in on the legality of these drop-offs, the Attorney General would provide rules for agencies across the state.
We believe it's illegal, it's improper, it's unprofessional. If the Attorney General agrees at any of those levels, we hope he offers advice and training so officers know those standards.
In response to that letter, the Menominee Police Department has released the body cam footage from the incident mentioned. They say officers believed the person was willing to go to the Sojourner House in Eau Claire and that they called the shelter to confirm they would accept him. They say the person was not transported against his will. We have their full statement and the full video on our website. I've also reached out to the Durand Police Department and the St. Croix County Sheriff for comment. They have not responded.
You don't think, oh, somebody's out to get me, but I don't know.
Laura Seibel from Bloomer was just trying to help out her daughter.
Last Tuesday morning, I got a call from my daughter crying that she had rear-ended somebody.
Her daughter told her she had injured a high-profile politician in the crash and was arrested. She said she had a lawyer, but that lawyer needed Loris's help.
He called back and said that he needed some cash because otherwise my daughter was going to be going to jail.
So she withdrew the cash, and the callers sent someone to their house to pick it up. She couldn't tell anyone what it was for, they told her, because of a gag order.
I couldn't tell him anything for fear my daughter was going to be in worse trouble.
This happened several times. Loris withdrew cash to hand off and pay the lawyer until her credit union sounded the alarm.
The fourth time, after I needed more money, RCU said, this isn't right. It's a scam.
We look for the unusually large transactions, and then we come in with a cool, calm head, and we try and get the facts. Make sure that, again, it is for a legitimate reason.
Her daughter was never in a crash, she was never arrested, and it wasn't her on the phone. The scammers were using artificial intelligence to copy her voice. RCU helped Loris report the crime to the sheriff's office. This type of scam, they say, is on the rise.
With AI software, now sometimes they're able to mimic the loved one's voice. So historically, over the last few years, we've seen them increase where they're specifically targeting the elderly, pretending to be a loved one that's in some type of distress after a crash or recently arrested.
Unfortunately for Loris, they caught it too late. The scammers took her and her husband's life savings. So far, they haven't been able to recover the money lost. Loris says she just wants others to know what to look out for and to be careful.
I want the world to know how quickly they can mess up your life.
In Bloomer, I'm Toby Mohr.